Hey, what's up, guys? Ben from My Sports Stop here, as always, with Richie Donnell. We're moving on to defense now with our top 10 defensive linemen.
Yeah, this class is incredibly loaded, incredibly talented, maybe one of the best defensive line classes that we could see maybe ever. What's special about this class is the guys that we have here, their ability to be versatile. You got edge rushers, you have guys that can play 3-4, you guys got guys that can play 4-3, guys that can play both.
All over the place.
It's incredibly talented, and like I said, could be one of the best classes that we ever see from that position.
Now, let's just get right into it. Number 10, you have Qualls from Washington.
Yeah, what's to like about this guy is the size and the ability to close the gaps. That's what you want out of a true nose tackle, somebody who's just going to eat up space. He's a little short at 6'1", but coming in at 321 pounds, what was impressive about him at the Combine was a lot of people expected him to be slow, and he wasn't a burner, but he showed very good athleticism for somebody of his size. And when you think about some of the top nose tackles, I mean, somebody like Casey Hampton comes to mind, who was a key piece of that Pittsburgh Steelers defense through the 2000s and helped them win some championships. Qualls is kind of cut from that same cloth. He's going to eat up two guys on the offensive line and create room for the linebackers and safeties to fly around and make plays.
Okay, number 9, Lawson from Auburn.
Yeah, this is a kid, he's the big if kid. He has all the tools. He's a five-tool prospect, to use a baseball term, but he's never healthy. Talent-wise, he's a first-round pick, and he's shown that. He had 9 sacks this year, finally healthy, played an entire season, but he's just got to stay healthy. If he had been healthy all 3 years, he's probably a first-round pick, but he has that it factor to be a difference maker. I think this is a kid that can line up outside as a linebacker if they want him to, or put his hand in the dirt and get after the quarterback, and really be able to move around, and you can do some different things with him. What worries me is just the injuries.
All right. Number 8, you have McDowell from Michigan State.
Yeah, this kid is extremely talented as a defensive tackle. He can play 4-3 D tackle. He can play 3-4 nose tackle, 3-4 D end. He plays against the run. He rushes the passer, collapses the pocket. He does everything that an all-pro defensive tackle would, but he's got off-the-field issues, and that's what dropped him this low. Because at the beginning of the year, I mean, we were talking about him as a top 5 pick once upon a time, and that's just to show how unimpressed people were with his interviews at the Combine. Talent alone, this guy would be able to change your defense. He'd be able to. He's a franchise guy along that defensive line that you can build around. You just got to put him in the right situation and get him around good people.
Okay, now number 7, this guy's been rising up draft boards like crazy, Hendrickson.
Yeah, in any other draft, Hendrickson's probably a late first-round pick. This is a guy who's been at the top of the leaderboard for sacks in the NCAA over the past 2-3 years. Even though the competition level wasn't necessarily there, the Florida schools all find ways to play each other. And he showed his talent when he played against those other schools, despite the difference in competition level. This is a guy 6'4", 270 pounds, who just gets after it, and he's even got room to put weight on. Now, at the Combine, he showed off his athleticism and even went through the linebacker drills on the day that the defensive ends were out there. And I think he could do that, but if you just let him put on a little bit of weight and let him play that 4-3 defensive end and just go get the quarterback, he's going to be a special breed.
And for people that didn't know him before the Combine, they know him now.
They do know him.
They know him now.
Yes.
Number 6, even though he's at number 6, probably a first-round pick, Taco Charlton.
Yeah, Taco Charlton on my list slipped a little bit, but that has nothing to do with him. It was just more guys kind of passing him a little bit. But this year, huge breakout year for him. 10 sacks in that Michigan defense that was just extremely dominant. He has good hustle. He gets after it. Just a hard-nosed, gritty guy who plays to the whistle. And that's something you want when you got to play in the trenches the whole game. You want a guy that has that chip on the shoulder, mean streak mentality. And like you said, even though he's number 6 on this list, there's a really good chance that he still ends up as a first-round pick.
Absolutely. Number 5, Charles Harris from Missouri.
Yeah, this is a guy who had a really good combine. He's going to be that tweener who's going to be that outside edge rusher. But if you want to put him down, you can. I think of somebody like Danielle Hunter from the Vikings, who kind of was a third down edge rusher at first when he first came in the NFL. but he was getting so many sacks that ultimately he made the Vikings play him more. And they got that production out of him this year by giving him more responsibility. And I see that with Charles Harris. He's a guy who's going to come in and impress. And when you think that, well, maybe he's not playing a lot, he's going to get a sack in a key moment because he's that guy that you can just send right off the edge and he's going to get there.
Okay, number 4, we're probably talking about a top 10 pick here, Derek Barnett.
Yeah, this is a guy that I really love. What hurt him was being sick at the combine. You know, he's got his pro day, but being sick really, really hurt him just because everybody in this group was doing so well. This is a guy that I think is worthy of a top 10 pick. I think he's talent-wise maybe one of the, in terms of ceiling, one of the 1, 2, or 3 best defensive line prospects in this draft. But he's got to get over that sickness and just get back to being himself. He broke Reggie White's record at Tennessee for career sacks, which is impressive in 3 years. But he does it all. He gets to the quarterback. He plays the run. I don't really see him moving to outside linebacker, even though he showed the athleticism, and I think he did the linebacker drills at the combine. I think his best bet is hand in the dirt, but he can be a special dude from that 4-3 defensive end spot.
Okay, number 3, Solomon Thomas from Stanford.
Yeah, this is a guy that everybody has fallen in love with. They were even talking about putting him at number 1 before Myles Garrett had an incredible combine. But this is a dude who kind of went from nobody to somebody over the course of the last season. He's possibly a top 5 pick now with how fast he's been rising. But 18 tackles, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble. It's solid, but he's a guy that has huge upside, and that's what the draft is for. You want a guy who you can develop and get for down the line to help build that future, and that's what he's going to be. He's a guy that they can mold and they can develop into that next level player because of his athleticism.
Yeah, speaking of falling in love with guys, I know plenty of people who absolutely adores number 2 on this list, Jonathan Allen.
Yeah, Jonathan Allen is going to be one of those guys that no matter where he gets drafted, he's going to have a spot to play. He's either going to be a 3-4 defensive end, could be a stud 4-3 tackle. It doesn't matter. This dude's just a ball player. He gets after it. I have him pegged as a 3-4 DN, but at 6'3", 290, he could easily bump up to 300 pounds if a team really needed him to, if they expected him to play inside. But 27.5 sacks, 41 tackles for loss. That's incredible.
Unbelievable.
Being able to play the run, play the pass. This guy he's a franchise changer. And I think if any team, obviously, Myles Garrett's going to be number 1, but even Cleveland taking Myles Garrett at number 1, Jonathan Allen is the guy who could make Cleveland pay for taking Myles Garrett if that doesn't work out.
All right, number 1, you said it. Unless something crazy happens, he'll be wearing a Browns uniform next year, Myles Garrett.
Yeah, this dude is unreal. I think since his freshman year, he's been in the eyes of everybody at Texas A&M. He reminds me of Joey Bosa, a guy that's just stepped in from day one and just got it done. Sack-wise, against the run, I think he can play really either or. In Cleveland, he would probably be an outside linebacker, but I think he can be a 4-3 defensive end as well. But the athleticism is incredible. The 40 he ran, the 41-inch vertical. If you had any doubts going into the combine, which I don't think anybody did, those doubts are now gone because I don't think anybody's really competing with this kid at that level. 6'5", 270 pounds. If you wanted him to add weight, he can still add weight, which is incredibly scary.
And it's just so reminiscent of what Clowney did
a
couple years ago in Indianapolis. And he was the obvious number 1 pick. If we're looking at this year, it's Garrett.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's just look at some honorable mentions here. We usually do top 10s, but there's so many players we want to mention here. Here's a few other guys. Montravius Adams from Auburn. He's a defensive tackle. I actually like him better than Carl Lawson. I think Adams is a great player. I think we're going to see him in the late 2nd round. Jordan Willis from Kansas State. You said so many good defensive ends, had great combines. He was one of them. He might slip into the 1st round, to be honest.
Yeah, that back end.
Tano Passignon from Villanova. To me, he just looks the part as kind of one of those tweener guys. So I think that's going to help. Dalvin Tomlinson from Alabama. Of course, everybody's talking about Jonathan Allen at defensive tackle, but Dalvin Tomlinson was kind of the other guy. And I think he could end up having a pretty nice career for himself. And another great combine performer, Terrell Basham from Ohio. Kind of like Trey Hendrickson, not a lot of people heard of him before the combine, but now that people are starting to recognize him and watch his tape, they're starting to get a real good feel for him. And I think he might be a second-round pick.
Yeah, I think that's a fair value.
All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and go to our website, mysportstop.com, for more original videos.